We're going to talk to a couple of Conservative commentators now. Tim Montgomery is a former social justice advisor to Boris Johnson. Tom Harwood is from the Guido Fawkes website. Thank you both very much for talking to us this morning. I guess to both of you, and I'll start with you, Tim, if that's OK, as a former advisor, and pick up on a point that David Warburton just made. When the advisor becomes the story, normally it's time to go. Why does that rule seemingly not apply in this case?
I think part of the reason, Roger, is just the centrality, really, of Dominic Cummings to the Downing Street operation that Boris Johnson has run since he became Prime Minister. The two got to know each other very well during the Brexit campaign, when Dominic Cummings was a key strategist for taking us out of the European Union. And then, of course, there was all the drama before last December's general election. And it was a lot of the aggression that Dominic Cummings brought to the table that helped the Tories get through that period and win the general election. So Boris Johnson relies on Dominic Cummings to a great extent, and I think it would take a lot to separate the two now.
So, Tom, do you think, picking up on following Tim's point through, is it a case that Boris Johnson is fearful of being without Dominic Cummings, or that he feels Dominic Cummings has so much to offer that he has to keep him?
Well, I don't think we can deny how central Dominic Cummings is within the Downing Street machine, and how ludicrous it would be to almost rip apart the process of reform that was overwhelmingly backed by the country just a few months ago, a higher share of the vote than even Tony Blair achieved in 1997, and to throw away the man that was masterminding the sort of public service reform that we're going to need if we're going to recover from the horrible coronavirus crisis that we're in right now. To throw all that away for the sake of a car journey, I think, if we take the heat out of this conversation, looks ludicrous. And so to some extent, that is a part of it. But also there's the other half of this, that we don't live in a country run whereby the media is judge, jury and executioner. We shouldn't have trial by media in this country. And I think the witch hunt that is going on right now is a lot of personal vendettas and a lot of almost sort of game playing by the media in terms of delivering that scalp that they want to see. And I think that that's pretty unedifying.
It's not just the media, is it? You know, many people have been in touch with BBC Breakfast who are genuinely upset, Tom, and confused and worried by what he has allegedly done, and the impact that has on the very important public health message. I mean, for that reason, do you think they should be looking at whether he stays or goes?
Well, I don't think that Dominic Cummings would accept that by any stretch. There are clear exemptions within those guidelines that were set out not only in the text of the guidelines online, but also by Dr. Jenny Harries in a press conference on the 24th of March before Dominic Cummings made that trip up to Durham. She was saying the specific exemptions that lie around safeguarding of children. So no, this isn't a clear-cut case. And I think that anyone who's trying to say that absolutely indefatigably he broke the rules is not being honest with people. And ultimately, there are cases in this country of politicians who have indefatigably broken the rules, like the Labour Welsh Health Secretary who took a picnic against the rules of his government, like Stephen Kinnock, who drove hundreds of miles to see his parents, like Tahir Ali, the Labour MP who went to a funeral with 100 other people, like Kevin Jones, the Labour MP who went to a birthday party. Now, these are clear breaches of the rules, and yet Keir Starmer has not called for them to go. And yet Dominic Cummings' case is not a clear breach of the rules. There might be some ambiguity to do with how it looks, and I'll certainly agree with you, it's not a good look and it has taken up media time. But is it really the case that something that is within the letter of the law but doesn't look very good is worth a resignation? And yet those 4 Labour politicians who have done far more than Dominic Cummings to break and really make a mockery out of the rules and they stay and they keep their jobs, I think that that is an outrageous double standard perpetuated by a media that was outside Dominic Cummings' house yesterday, standing shoulder to shoulder, packed in like sardines, making the most horrendous mockery out of those restrictions and calling him a hypocrite. I think that the double standards here are extraordinary and need to be exposed.
OK, Tom, and just for balance, you said something, I picked up on certainly on something you said about Vaughan Gething. I mean, he didn't actually break any rules. What he did was went on a local walk and stopped to eat with his family, then continued their daily exercise to get home. He says he broke no rules. He says he broke no rules.
To be clear, picnics in the park were outlawed in Wales.
He says he broke no rules, just as Dominic Cummings says he broke no rules.
Tim, can we just ask you the same question as well? I mean, you know, when the advisor is the front page of the newspapers. What do you think, happen now? We've heard Labour, for example, calling for an inquiry.
Well, I think Tom has put up a good defence of the situation, but Mary Wakefield, Dominic Cummings' wife, wrote a piece in The Spectator talking about the difficulties that they'd faced as both had gone through the coronavirus themselves. And there was not one mention in that article of the trip to Durham. Now, why was there no mention in that article of the trip to Durham? I think it's because they knew that if they did mention it, there would be all of this row. They knew that what they had done was at the very least a bending of the rules. And now, back to your question specifically, Louise, there have now, of course, been other allegations that not only did they go up to, as COVID carriers, up to Durham to be close to people in the age group that were a high risk, that they perhaps went around the region in various ways as well. And so I think the inquiry, should there be one, and I think there is a strong case for there to be an inquiry, should investigate these other claims. I think that's in the interests of Dominic Cummings, if he's going to continue to be the Prime Minister's advisor, just so that the air can be clear, that we can know one way or the other whether some of the allegations that have been in the press this bank holiday weekend are true or not.
Tim Montgomery, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Tom Harwood as well. Thanks both indeed for bringing us your point of view here on BBC Breakfast in the Morning. Thanks.